hello, welcome to your favorite tech show on television with Don Pedro Agambi. And you know what we do here every week? Issues, trends, developments in the global ICT industry. And of course, we play host to high-tech, most important movers and shakers. And we also play host to tech CEOs, innovators, and big thinkers. Today promises to be very exciting and informative as always. Stay with us.
Yemi from Nigeria receives the first prize in the AISI techtvng category for his program ICT Africa. Congratulations, Don Pedro.
ICT Reporter of the Year Electronic, Don Pedro Agambi.
In case you just joined us, you're watching Africa's numero uno tech show on television with Don Pedro Agambi. When we come back from this quick break, you'll meet a tech personality of the week. Our tech personality of the week is Mr. Onyeka Akumah. He's the Chief Executive Officer of FarmCrowdy.
Onyeka Akumah, for his pioneering role in the establishment of Nigeria's first digital agriculture platform, FarmCrowdy, that focuses on connecting farm sponsors with real farmers in order to increase food production. FarmCrowdy has worked and empowered over 25,000 rural farmers across 16 states in Nigeria, including Kano, Niger, Nasarawa, Ogun, Oyo, Osun, Edo, Akwa Ibom, Lagos, Plateau, Kaduna, Adamawa, Niger, Kwara, Abuja, Sokoto, and Benue. FarmCrowdy is described by the Vice President of Nigeria as the company creating the new wealth in agriculture.
Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Can we have a bit background about who Onyeka Akumah is?
Okay, so my name is Onyeka Akumah. I'm from Delta State in Nigeria. First to five, had a background in software engineering, and then spent the first period of my career in helping other businesses to set up, the likes of Jumia, Konga, Wakana. These were businesses I worked in very early stage. I also had this stint with some consulting from Deloitte, British Council. I'm an entrepreneur. I love to use technology in 3 areas: agriculture, real estate, and transportation. Because I feel that if you have an impact on if you're going to have impact on people's lives, especially in Africa, these are those 3 sectors that I feel technology can have tremendous impact and create value for people in general. Yeah, so that's me.
As you know, the world is currently undergoing or facing a pandemic, and we're trying to come out of it, including Nigeria. What lesson do you think that the tech sector must have learned, if we really have learned something?
Generally, people now appreciate technology from a place where we understand that in order to deal with reducing the effect of the pandemic, there has to be a lot of contactless engagement with customers or corporates or with individuals in general. And how else do you do that but using technology? And so you find a restaurant today that maybe was focused on people coming in, walking into the restaurant to have conversations and then have a meal. Understand now that there are a lot of people that are no longer doing that. And so that has moved them away from just being a restaurant that serves meals in a building to a restaurant now that is looking at how to use mobile apps and websites to get people to order for services on their platform. So the importance of technology is really coming to play, whether it's in health or in agriculture, in education. In education, I've seen a lot of brilliant stuff happen in that place to get students to continue to study even if they can't get into classrooms. So I think it's something that people are paying a lot of attention to now, and everyone is not just paying attention to it based on the pandemic, but if this becomes almost, I mean, we say it's the new normal, we should appreciate technology's effect on different industries and see that taking on its own shape going forward.
Technology, agriculture, where do they meet?
So for me, first, 2015, I wanted to invest in the agriculture space. I was looking at a farmer I could partner with. I then noticed that there were issues with over 30 million farmers accessing funding from the right channel, and then cheap funds that they can use to produce on their farms, technical expertise to do their work, and then where to sell what it is they've produced. That was one challenge with agriculture. On the other hand, you had the regular office guy that was struggling to find the right farmer to work with. There are so many stories of I've given a farmer money and he's used it the wrong way. He's used it to marry a second wife and I'm not able to get my monies back, right? I then said, okay, I wanted to use technology to solve my problem first. And in solving my problem first, it was identify a farmer you will work with by checking his historical data, his operational data, seeing whether he has good credit score, if it's possible. I mean, those are things now we're looking at. And then profile this farmer for an investor that wants to invest in agriculture but doesn't want to be the one to go to the farm to use a hoe and cutlass and till the ground. That was a solution that I wanted to solve for myself, and I found out that there were so many other people that wanted to solve that problem as well. So that became our own application of technology in agriculture space, especially from a place of funding farmers. It evolved from that, just from funding into other sectors. Farmers want to sell their produce. We've built platforms now to help them to sell their produce better. So now they're able to connect on our platform and then make it available to major off-takers to buy up from us. Farmers need insurance. We have mobile apps that are helping them now to get the right kind of micro insurance for them to protect their investment in the farms and then also protect their lives and their properties. Farmers need marketing. Farmers need structured finance. These are now solutions we now have in FarmCrowdy. So the intersection of technology and agriculture is that across the food value chain, in the different things that a farmer will need or anyone involved in the food value chain needs to get done in an effective and efficient manner, technology can play a role in that, in reducing how much errors you get from that and then get to the results you're looking at.
What is the mission and vision of FarmCrowdy to the Nigerian economy?
And I think the work we've done in this close to 4 years has been understanding how to get farmers cheaper funding, helping those farmers to produce more, and then connecting them to the right market so that they earn decent margins from farming as a business, while we get more farm produce, less wasted, and then getting into the market for people to buy from. Now, coming into the context of where I see FarmCrowdy and how it applies itself to the economy, if we have in our pool 182,000 farmers that can benefit from 182,000 farmers across the country that can benefit from this service of growing their income from where it was and then getting 3x, 4x, 5x on what they were getting before to increase their wealth, I'm excited about that. Because one way or the other, if you have many other people like me that have their own 180,000 farmers within their pool doing the same thing, you will see wealthier people in the country. That is one. Two is in food production. That whole place of boosting food security is a major concern for us in FarmCrowdy. And so in all the things we're doing, it's about finding ways to get more food available, cheaper for people to buy, and making that place making this country a place where we say food security is guaranteed. And that is a major thing that I'm excited about, that FarmCrowdy is focused on. The third thing is that we are all young people in the FarmCrowdy team. The average age is 26.5. Most people are between 21 and 34, 35. If you take this group of people and you see how we're using technology in the agriculture space to change the narrative for the food value chain, it is encouraging more people. We become like ambassadors to the youth that are out there, to encourage more of them to embrace technology, to embrace whatever industry they want to get into, embrace technology and create a change for it. We are the ones creating our own wealth, and we're excited about the fact that we're the ones doing it, and we are people who call youths, right? I'm excited about the fact that we're changing the narrative that way for the Nigerian economy. The fourth thing, and maybe the last thing I will say concerning this, is one of the things we do extensively in FarmCrowdy is we're able to produce and then get some of our farm produce exported. And so, for instance, in Kaduna, where we do organic ginger, where maybe there are only 2 organizations in West Africa that are certified to do organic ginger, and FarmCrowdy is one of them. And so our ginger becomes of high demand. And so when we're exporting this to the UAE, for instance, that foreign exchange that happens between Nigeria and UAE, and we're making forex coming back into the country, it's a good narrative. We want to see more businesses do things that we can export. We want to be able to generate more revenues in FX that comes back into the country and boost the economy. So that is something we're excited about. That's something I think we're doing in our own little corner to boost the Nigerian economy.
One would have expected that you shouldn't be here. You should be in one of the farms, wearing farm clothes and all, and all of that.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are you doing here?
So, not every school. So, for instance, let me give you a scenario. So, if I was on the farm right now and I was coordinating farming activity every day, 365 days a year, then I won't have the vision to be able to build the technology that I'll need in the farm. Not everyone, and this is the mistake a lot of people make. Not everyone is meant to be the farmer that is using the hoe and cutlass to till the ground. Across the value chain, there are different players. Where we play in FarmCrowdy is using technology to enable agricultural practice and make them better. In doing that, there's stakeholder engagement for our structured finance business. That is not done on the farm. That is done in the banks, that is done in the state houses, that is done with DFIs, that is done with major donors and individuals that are looking to fund the agriculture space. If I'm in the farm today, I won't do that. There is aggregation. In the aggregation model, we have set up over 100 aggregation centers, each having between 15 and 30 metric tons of grain that can be accommodated in each of those aggregation centers. Farmers have this within 2 kilometers from their farm. It becomes like their kiosk where they can buy inputs and they can sell harvest. That is running on the farms, and we have over 100 different experts that are running that, effectively becoming our own distribution channel. You have FarmCrowdy marketing and data. FarmCrowdy marketing is building marketing solutions in the aggregate business space, and the tech and data team is building all the tech that we're talking about. There's FarmCrowdy insurance, and so our team is also selling insurance for farmers, life health, property, and crop insurance covers for our farmers. And those kind of conversations, I would do them in the farm. Now, don't get me wrong. I am consistently always moving up and down. I get into the farms. I think, the schedule for us to even have this interview have been moved a couple of times because I've been moving back and forth from farming activities. We're trying to engage on the dry season farming. My team just came back from Delta yesterday night. We're looking at Delta, we're looking at Oyo State, we're looking at Edo. I'm doing a lot of stakeholder engagement in Abuja. And so I'm constantly traveling. In the last 1 month, I've spent only 1 week in Lagos. And this is one of those days because I am constantly moving. So I'm not in the farm. Doesn't mean we're not working. There are people working on the farm. There are people coordinating that bit. I'm doing my own bit where I'm getting stakeholder engagement put into place so that we can get the activity going on the farm effectively.
What is the biggest challenge facing the agricultural sector in Nigeria today?
So let me take it from 3 angles. I'll take it from the farmer's angle. I'll take it from the general public's angle. And then I'll take it from maybe the government's angle. Let me take the farmer's angle. One of the biggest problems facing farmers in the agriculture space today is lack of knowledge, lack of exposure, lack of education to understand what they can put in place to make their farming experiences better. That gap is where a lot of people have taken advantage of these farmers on. So an average farmer produces maybe plantain. And 1 truck of plantain is going for, because of the way he's produced it, he will sell it for maybe 5,000 to 10,000 naira, right? The person buying up that plantain will go and sell it in Lagos for 100,000 to 150,000 naira. And that farmer is the one that did all the work, but because he's the middleman that has come with cash on the spot, the illiteracy plaguing the farmer at that point where he's not able to see, not illiteracy, the lack of knowledge and exposure to see what the data prices will look like outside of his farm is not available to him, and so he will take only what is in front of him. That knowledge gap is a major problem for farmers today. It also affects how they produce what they produce. So the reason why there are not many people doing organic ginger in the country, for instance, is because they don't even have the right kind of capital that will allow him to farm and get the results he needs to get and then make the decent margin he needs to make. These 3 things plague the farmers on one hand. To the general public, access to food makes it such that food prices become high because there is almost 50% wastage of food items that come from the farm and gets to the market. And you see that in all of that, it affects food prices. There's also a lot of disasters that have happened recently. So the flood in Kebbi is going to have its own effect on the cost of rice by the time Christmas comes, when everybody wants rice. By the time we get into next year, it's going to also have its own effect. So that whole place of accessibility to homegrown food becomes a bit of a challenge for your everyday user. The second thing is the mentality that agriculture is synonymous with poverty. The typical person you ask and you say, hey, I'm a farmer. They're like, okay, it's like you didn't have any other thing to do and you just had to succumb to going back to the farm, and that was the last thing you could do. That mentality is a major barrier to why you don't have a lot of agriculture ambassadors that people want to look up to and want to get into the farming space or get into the food value chain. The third thing is the misconception that everything around farming, it has to do with hoes and cutlass. There are people that are involved in the tech space using drones for agriculture. I have a friend that was using his drone service to provide traffic updates in Lagos. He later on changed his business when he saw an opportunity to use the same drones to spray fertilizer on the farm. He's in the food value chain. But now he's no longer building and programming drones to provide traffic updates. That is sexy. Everybody wants that. Everyone will talk about that. He's making his money from spraying fertilizer on the farm, from giving updates about activities going on the farm. The misconception in the general public that farming is all about who and contact is what is killing a lot of people from understanding the opportunity in the space. Then you come to the challenge with the government. Now, the government puts a lot of policies in place. The government wants to have a lot of engagement with the private sector. But you find a bit of a gap around understanding how both parties will play together. And this starts from whether it's in the ministries or those that are responsible for the funding, and until we're able to align in where the private sector understands why it's thriving as a private sector player, understands what its contribution is to the food value chain, and the government is able to provide an enabling environment for them to succeed and then get tremendous impact and value to people. That challenge of connecting together is a major, major challenge. So those are three main things that I would look at.
Can you share with us some role technology innovation has played in the last 60 years? And when you look at it, say, if not for tech innovation, we would have been where we are.
I think technology in Nigeria, if I look at the last 20 years, I would say, so first you look at when did technology become really popular and famous with people outside of the continent before we adopted it here. I think in the era where we had the likes of the Microsofts and the Oracles and the Googles come into play, they broke down that whole barrier to where computers were only accessible to a select few, to the military, to state governments, because they were the only ones that could afford the supercomputers that were giving them the results we're getting. That in itself allowed all the different industry, all the different players across the world to access computers and then start using them for very important things. I think a major shift was when computers became personal computers and then people could have access to them. I remember in school, we had one computer in the whole university, and in that computer was inside a class that was maybe the size of a penalty box in the football field, and it was just one computer there. And what used to happen is in SS1, you only have one time you just go and see the computer and you marvel at what a computer looks like. Now you can imagine talking to me at that point in time and telling me how important technology is. It felt like a fairy tale to me at that time of my life. But today, every person has a laptop, every person has a tablet, every person has a mobile phone, and I'll speak to that. That democratization of accessing computers has helped the entire world. Now, coming into Nigeria, right, our adaptation of taking on these tools became important, but I think the first major push that happened was when we had access to mobile devices, when the GSMs came into play. I think that gave us a tremendous leapfrog over adaptation of getting into using computers as much as people use them. When mobile phones started becoming as powerful as computers, that even made better sense to people. So you go on your social media, I don't know, there are very few people now that will go on social media on the weekend and do so with their laptops. They can do everything with their phones. There are very few people that answer their emails with a laptop over the weekend. They can do that with their phones. And so as the phones became more powerful and more people started having access to getting mobile devices, I think we started seeing a serious leapfrog in people adapting, accepting technology as it were. Coming into technology services, the likes of the telcos did their own bit, but I think another shift happened in 2009, 10, 11, 12, when you had a lot of the e-commerce platforms come into play. That gave birth to a new set of entrepreneurs that people could relate to from a younger level. You had a scenario where e-commerce platforms started coming into play, and we started having for us ambassadors in the tech space that everybody wanted to look forward to being like. So, and then you had a new crop of entrepreneurs gather young people to build tech solutions in e-commerce, in media, in travel, in transportation, even in the banks. A lot of banks are adapting how technology was applied into your regular banking activity. And that also changed the perspective of how people saw technology in the country. And what we've seen is we've had that first phase, that first era. There's been the second era where some of those people came out of those organizations to start their own firms, and then you see the adaptation of technology also, and people appreciating what technology could do for them in their businesses. And then we've now had the third wave of entrepreneurs that have come from that era also to now create even more successful. So that cycle has gone maybe like 3 times from maybe 2009 to 2013, 14. It has breeded some very exciting entrepreneurs, and very soon we'll start celebrating these tech entrepreneurs and matching them side by side with what you have in the Western world. So I think it's been a journey of adapting PCs to getting into mobile, to now seeing entrepreneurs building solutions on the web, and then maybe in the future we'll start getting even youngsters doing some more exciting things.
Wow, two more questions and we'll wrap. First one is youth inclusion in governance in Nigeria. There's this feeling out there that we really haven't got enough youth inclusion in terms of policy formulation, influencing policies, despite the digital innovation that the youth are trying out every time. What's your opinion?
I think our youth should start taking seriously how they engage in policy development, and it starts from young people very early on knowing that they want to go that way and taking their lives seriously as soon as they are done with it. It starts maybe even from school. You see a lot of 80%, 85%, 90% of people, when they look at their role models, who are their role models? Their role models are people that you look at and you're like, how is this person going to really influence policy if his role model is one that has nothing to do with policy making? If his role model is someone that is completely off the corridors of power, to the point where you can create things and influence lives from the rule of law, from the things you're putting in place when it comes to policy. So I think it starts from who our role models are as young people, one. Two is how we prepare ourselves to get into that space. So for instance, if I was gone in for, say I want to govern my state, and say I want to get into, and that's why I also say I'm not necessarily in that space, but if I was going for that, I would have started preparing myself as soon as I was done with school to learn about what happens in my society, to get involved in a place where for everything I'm doing, I want to have impact in people's lives, in my community, to do it in such a way that I'm also finding role models that are already in the corridors of power that I want to emulate and be like, and see the things they've gone through. I won't just wake up one morning and say, I want to be the governor. I want to understand what a local government chairman will go through, to from there get into what a senator or a House of Rep person, or a House of Rep member is going through, deal with that, and then grow to the rest so that I am groomed and ready for that. Or I embrace legal, that's why you find a lot of lawyers in that space. If I understand the laws that governs the land and I understand it end to end, then I start preparing myself and then I start coming out. Because the thing about policy making is that you're in a place of leadership, and the true thing about leadership is that you have to give yourself to sacrificing beyond your personal gains and that your personal benefits. You push yourself out there to make yourself an example of a leader that other people want to follow. You need to sacrifice. Now, how will I do that as a youth if I've not started practicing it early? So those are things that, for anyone that wants to get into that space, as a young person and very young and very early, I hope that in my time I would see a president of this country again in his 40s, a president of this country in his early 50s. That would be exciting if we can reduce the gap, and it shows the seriousness of the youth that we have in society that are going for things like this. I'll be excited to see that, but we have to be prepared. We have to start early. It's not I want to get into office and then I just start my campaign 6 months before the election and I say I want to win.
Wow. Okay. So FarmCrowdy is for what next?
What next?
What next for?
Yeah. So
and can you tell us, what this group is all about? Break it down, and then your next, line of vision.
Okay. So the group. Let me start with the group. What we've done with FarmCrowdy was we immediately identified that we could do other things with finance. And so we removed the crowdfunding element from FarmCrowdy and created a different business for that. And that's now maybe one of the biggest crowdfunding platforms in Africa, Crowdyvest. So that business runs on its own, and there's a team running that. There's a team of close to 20 people running that separately, and that's a fintech platform. Then FarmCrowdy continue to remain on using technology in the agriculture space across those 6 different business opportunities that I mentioned earlier on. I'll come back to FarmCrowdy, but still speaking on the group. I have my eyes on 3 things: agriculture, real estate, and transport. I already have a real estate startup separate, and that's not part of this group, that somebody else is running called Rent Small. But within the group, what we have is we have FarmCrowdy, we have Crowdyvest, and then Plenty Waka. Plenty Waka is the first bus hailing app out of Nigeria, and I'm excited about the numbers they're getting. Yesterday, they reached 200,000 rides completed in their first 12 months of launching. They're now in Lagos and Abuja, looking to expand into other states in the country. So under that group called Mfato, we now have a holding company, Mfato. We now have FarmCrowdy as one of the businesses, Crowdyvest, and then Plenty Waka. Now, if I speak specifically to what, so on the group level, it's looking at investing in businesses that are focused on creating impact and having value in people's lives. But if I look at what FarmCrowdy is looking forward to doing, with 182,000 farmers on our network, we've unlocked access to funding, aggregation, insurance, and all the services we had. Farmers have moved from $30 to $500 that they were making maybe $30. Now a farmer is making $500 in our network. It shows how much growth these farmers are able to get and how much wealth we can unlock for them. Our vision is to see how we can get 1 million farmers, an additional 800,000 farmers within our pool within the next 2 to 3 years, to connect them with the services that we have that would unlock wealth for them and move them also from that $30 they were making to making $500. And then that in itself, if we're able to have such impact and create value for farmers, will be exciting for us as a business. That is our vision, to get more farmers within our network to benefit from our service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was our tech personality of the week, Mr. Onyeka Akumah, and we hope you found those information quite useful and informative. For comments and observation, please reach us on the numbers and emails now showing on your screen. You can also watch this on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production crew, thanks for watching. Same time, same station. I'll be back next time. I'll see you.